Welcome to your context clues lesson number 2, número 2. Please make sure that you watch the video lesson with me. We're going to be reading each sentence and using the context clues to infer the meaning of the underlined word. We're going to circle the answer that best gives its meaning. Our objective is I will analyze and determine the meaning of unknown words using my context clues. It's very important that you have a highlighter. Please go along with me. Please make sure that you highlight the context clues with me and plug in the meanings with me to see if it matches the way it's used in the sentence and it matches the context clues. Let's get started. When you're done, this goes in the turn-in bin. Don't forget your name and date. So for lesson 2, let's look at number 1. As we sailed through the choppy sea, we spotted a distress boat in the distance. Its passengers were frantically waving their arms and a white flag in the air. We need to ask ourselves, good readers are able to identify the context clues. We have a white flag in the air, which shows that someone needs help. They're waving their arms, also showing that they need help. They're in the sea and they were sailing. It means they're in a boat. And there's passengers. Those are the people who are waving the flag and their arms. So what do you think the word distress means? If these are our context clues, we have unlucky, ruined, suffering, and in trouble. Let's plug in unlucky. As we sailed through the choppy sea, we spotted a unlucky boat. No. A ruined boat? Maybe. Suffering boat? That's an emotion a boat cannot express. Or in trouble boat. Let's look at our context clues. They're in the sea, they're waving their arms. The passengers are waving the white flag, meaning they need help. So they're not ruined, they're in trouble. And we can prove it by verifying, by plugging it in, and crossing out the word distressed. As we sailed through the choppy sea, we spotted a in trouble boat in the distance. It matches, and the context clues also match, so that's correct. Number 2, although Sherry demonstrated a high aptitude for working with computers and machines, her grades in math and science were terrible, so she is unlikely to be accepted into the program. Now let's get our highlighter. What I do, you do. Let's see, the word aptitude. Our context clues are that she's working with computers and machines, terrible grades, and unlikely to be accepted into the program. So let's cross out the word aptitude and plug in promise, ability, dislike, or strength. Although Sherry demonstrated a high promise for working with computers and machines, her grades in math and science were terrible, so she is unlikely to be accepted into the program. If she demonstrated high promise, promise does not fit in. Ability. Although Sherry demonstrated a high ability for working with computers and machines, her grades in math and science were terrible, so she's unlikely to be accepted into the program. Maybe. Dislike. Although Sherry demonstrated a high dislike for working with computers, no, because she does like working with computers, so it's not that one. Strength. Let's plug it in. Although Sherry demonstrated a high strength for working with computers and machines, her grades in math and science were terrible. Out of strength and ability, which of these meanings matches the context clues and the way it's used in that sentence? It's going to be ability. Although Sherry demonstrated a high ability for working with computers and machines, her grades in math and science were terrible. That matches. Number 3, my mom forgot to bring in the towels, so she was drying on the porch, so they were completely saturated after the surprise rainstorm. Oh no, our context clue. We know that because there was a rainstorm and they were located on the porch, these towels are now saturated. Does saturated mean soaked, destroyed, cleaned, or absorbed? Let's plug it in and make sure it matches our context clues. If you left towels out on the porch and it's started raining, a surprise rainstorm, the towels are not going to be destroyed. It's not acid rain. They're not going to be clean because of the rain. It's either absorbed or soaked. So let's plug them in. My mom forgot to bring in the towels. She was drying on the porch. So they were completely soaked after the surprise rainstorm, or they were completely absorbed. If you leave towels outside, they're going to be soaked. We plugged it in and it does match, because if they're soaked, it's due to the rainstorm. So it is correct. Number 4. Although he was an amazing athlete, he was often hindered by pain from old sports injuries. Good readers know that you have to find the context clues to find the meaning of the unknown word. Old sports injuries would be a clue to give us a hint in identifying what that word hindered means. He was an athlete, and there's pain. So because of these injuries, he has pain. So he is hindered. He was often annoyed by pain from old sports injuries. If you have a sport injury, you're going to be a little more than annoyed. It doesn't fit and it doesn't match. Let's cross it out. Although he was an amazing athlete, he was often hurt by pain, held back by pain, or suffering by pain. I could see where people would select suffering because pain's related to that, and hurt, it's related to pain. But he is being hurt by pain. No, the pain's already there. He's not being hurt by it. The injuries are already there. So it's either held back or suffering. Let's plug him in one more time. Although he was an amazing athlete, he was often held back by pain from old sports injuries, or he was often suffering by pain from old sports injuries. We're going to select held back. It fits the context, it fits the way it's being used in the sentence, and it matches, because if you have pain from injuries because you played sports, it's going to hold you back, meaning you're not going to be able to do most things. You're going to have to relax after you run and exercise, so it's going to prevent you from doing things. Number 5, we had to climb over logs and beat back branches as we hiked through the untamed wilderness. Now, we know that we can also figure out the meaning of a word by looking at the prefix. The prefix un means not. So the word untamed has something to do with not being tamed. So out of these 4 meanings, which one has a similar meaning for something that's not tamed? And we also have our context clues to help us out. They had to climb over logs. There was a lot of branches they had to push back as they were hiking in the wilderness. So it's a lot of things that they have to do in order to hike. They're pushing back the branches and the logs. So it's not very tamed. So is it going to be beautiful if there's a lot of logs they have to climb over, a lot of branches they have to beat back? No, it's not going to be beautiful. Messy, wild, or tiring? What is the meaning of the word untamed? Let's plug them in. We had to climb over logs and beat back branches as we hiked through the messy wilderness, wild wilderness, or tiring wilderness. The wilderness cannot be tiring. We're trying to find a word to describe the wilderness. The wilderness, an adjective. So it's either messy or wild, because it doesn't seem to take care of this hiking trail. If there's a lot of branches they haven't trimmed, a lot of logs they haven't gotten out of the way. So if you describe the wilderness as messy, that's the word that you would use to describe like a room, not the wilderness. So it's going to have to be wild. Let's plug it in to see if it matches. We had to climb over logs and beat back branches as we hiked through the wild wilderness. That is our definition for untamed. Number 6. I panicked and jumped when I thought I saw a snake slithering through the brush on the side of the road. This is a word that has multiple meanings. We're not talking about a hairbrush, like a tool to help you with your hair. We have a snake slithering. That's a context clue. And side of the road, meaning the brush is located on the side of the road because the snake is moving around there. So the possible meanings are ground, comb, rocks, shrubs, and grass. We know it's not comb. It's not related to a tool dealing with your hair. So we're going to immediately cross that one out. So we're going to plug in ground, rocks, and shrubs, and grass. I panicked and jumped when I thought I saw a snake slithering through the ground on the side of the road. Maybe. I panicked and jumped when I thought I saw a snake slithering through the rocks on the side of the road. No. It's either shrubs, like grass, or the ground. We need one that's very specific. I panicked and jumped when I thought I saw a snake slithering through the shrubs on the side of the road. Ooh, it's brush, shrubs and grass, or ground. Out of these two, which one's a stronger meaning that fits the context clues that it's at the side of the road? It's going to have to be shrubs and grass because it matches our context clues. It's the grass is located on the side of the road and the snake is slithering in the grass and the shrub. So let's plug it in. I panicked and jumped when I thought I saw a snake slithering through the shrubs, the grass, on the side of the road. Number 7. The loathsome little girl was babysitting. Take 2. The loathsome little girl I was babysitting pushed her brother, dumped sand on her friend's head, purposely broke 3 toys, and teased the dog next door. Let's get our highlighter and highlight our context clues. Now, this little girl dumped sand, broke 3 toys, and teased the dog. So this word is an adjective. It's describing the actions of the little girl. Now, if the little girl is teasing a dog, dumping sand, and breaking toys, would the best adjective to describe her, a possible meaning, be horrible, disgusting, unkind, or rowdy? All of these describe her, but we need the one that's very specific that describes the actions of her. Plug it in, don't forget. The horrible little girl I was babysitting pushed her brother, dumped sand on her friend's head, purposely broke 3 toys, and teased the dog next door. Maybe. The disgusting little girl I was babysitting pushed her brother. Now, disgusting would be if she was doing something that was related to her eating something or not bathing, not based on her doing terrible things, so it's not going to be disgusting. Unkind, yeah, her actions were unkind, but I feel like if you break stuff, you tease dogs, and you dump sand on someone, you're going a little more extreme than unkind. Rowdy, meaning hyper. So the rowdy little girl I was babysitting pushed her brother, dumped sand on her friend's head. Out of rowdy and horrible, which word gives you the meaning and is a good meaning for the word loathsome? And we forgot to highlight pushed her brother. That's another thing this little girl did. So I think this little girl is horrible. The word loathsome means horrible. The horrible little girl pushed her brother, dumped sand, broke toys, and teased the dog. It matches the context clues and it fits in the sentence. Number 8. Thinking about the size of the universe simply boggles my mind. So, size, universe, mind, thinking. These are your context clues. Good readers use them to find out the meaning of the underlined word. Our underlined word is boggles. Our possible meanings are enormous, hurts, overwhelms, wonder. So let's plug them in. Thinking about the size of the universe, simply enormous my mind. that doesn't match the context clues or fit the sentence. Thinking about the size of the universe simply hurts my mind. That's not going to hurt your mind. Thinking about the size of the universe simply overwhelms my mind or wonders my mind. It's going to be overwhelms. That's a big idea to think about. So it checks out because if you're thinking about the universe, you're using your mind. It's overwhelming to think about. So it matches. Number 9. The daredevil was preparing to leap his motorcycle over the vast canyon, which seemed like it was too far for him to make it. Highlight canyon, leaping, daredevil, motorcycle. So let's plug in either deep, long, enormous, or high. The daredevil was preparing to leap his motorcycle over the deep canyon, long canyon, enormous canyon, or high canyon. Now, don't forget that the word leap means that you're jumping. So out of these possible meanings, which one can we eliminate? Remember, a canyon is like a cliff with a river flowing through it. So it's not going to be high. So let's cross that one out. The daredevil was preparing to leap his motorcycle over the deep canyon, long canyon, or enormous canyon, which seemed like it was too far for him to make it. So he's having second thoughts about doing this because it is enormous. And we can check by plugging it in. The daredevil was preparing to leap his motorcycle over the enormous canyon. It checks out. We are able to match our context clues. The last one. Sally seemed completely perplexed by the math problem. After 10 minutes, she still could not figure it out. Could not figure it out would be a context clue to help us define perplexed. It's a math problem, and after 10 minutes, she could not figure it out. So is she confused, disgusted, annoyed, or patient? Now, you cannot be disgusted with the math problem if you're still stuck on it. You're not going to be patient if you're still struggling after 10 minutes and you cannot figure it out. So based on the context clues, could not figure it out after 10 minutes. This math problem, she seemed confused or annoyed. Let's plug it in. Sally seemed completely confused by the math problem or annoyed. You're going to be confused by the math problem because you cannot figure it out, so it matches, and we plugged it in. Good job. Please make sure to turn this in to the turn-in bin, and your paper, your context clues lesson 2 practice should look like this. Good job.